Good morning. Okay, so we're going to move on to day 2 of fractions and decimals on the number line. So let's review. Compare -1.5 and -1 3/4 on the number line. So the first thing that we're going to do is find those two numbers. So if I look at -1.5, I don't see -1.5, but I do see -1 2/4, which would reduce to -1.5. So I'm going to graph -1.5, and I'm going to graph -1 3/4. Remember, compare means less than, greater than, or equal to. So if I'm going to compare those, I'm going to say -1 3/4 is less than -1.5, because left is less. Numbers to the left are always less than numbers to the right. Next direction. Find a fraction that is between the two numbers. Find a fraction that is between -1 2/4 and -1 3/4. So what I'm going to have to do is increase the denominator. Instead of a 4, I'm going to make that denominator an 8, which means this is going to be -1 6/8. I'm going to do the same thing here. So 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 times 2 is 4. So what fraction comes between -1 6/8 and -1 4/8? Well, that would be -1 5/8. Place less than, greater than, or equal to sign in the blank. Remember, the sign is the opposite of what it should be with positive numbers. So first of all, let's take a careful look. We've got a -2/7 and a -2/5. Both numbers are negative and they have different denominators. So remember, the easiest way to do this is by doing cross products. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 2, that's -14, and 5 times 2 is -10. So -10 is greater than -14. -10 would be to the right of -14 on a number line. All right, next numbers. We've got -0 and 4/10, -0 and 3/10. Since -0.4 be to the left, that is less than -0.3. -1 2/9 compared to -1 1/6. So they're both negative numbers. They both start with -1, and they both have fractions with different denominators. So I can actually kind of ignore those -1s, and all I'm focusing on is the fractions 9 times 1 and 6 times 2. Because -12 would be to the left, then -1 2/9 is less than -1 1/6. You could also make common denominators. If you wanted to use the denominator 18, you could do 9 times 2 and 2 times 2. So -1 2/9 equals -1 4/18. And then over here, 6 times 3 and 1 times 3. So that equals -1 3/18. So -1 4/18 is less than -1 3/18. -1/3 compared to -5/6. So again, we have two negative fractions with different denominators. You could find a common denominator, so we could use the denominator 6. I would do 3 times 2 and 1 times 2. So -1/3 equals -2/6. So now I'm comparing -2/6 to -5/6. -2/6 would be to the right, so that would be greater than -5/6. Or, other option is do your cross products. 3 times 5, -15, 6 times 1, -6. -6 would be to the right of -15. So either way you solve it, you're going to get -1/3 is greater than -5/6. -0 and 4/10 compared to -0 and 31/100. Now the first thing that I notice is that this number has 2 digits past the decimal. I want my other number to also have 2 digits past the decimal, so I am allowed to add a 0 right here. So now it's really kind of like I'm comparing negative 40 and negative 31. So negative 40 would be to the left of negative 31 on a number line. Negative 1 3/4, negative 1 5/6. One option is to find a common denominator. So for 4 and 6, that would be 12. So on the left, if I do 4 times 3 and 3 times 3, I get negative 1 9/12. On the right side, I could do 6 times 2 and 5 times 2. So that'd be negative 1 10/12. So all you have to focus on then, since they both start with negative 1, all you have to focus on is your numerator. Since negative 9 would be to the right of negative 10, that would be greater than. Remember, if you don't want to do a common denominator, your second option is cross products. You get the same answer. So if you do 4 times 5, that's negative 20, and 6 times 3 is negative 18. Negative 18 is greater than negative 20. All right, page 2. Order the numbers from least to greatest. Use the number line. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is plot my numbers. So first I'm looking at negative 1.5. And I see that one right here. Now I'm looking for 1 3/10. I see a 1.2 down here. 1.3 would come after that. So 1.3 would be way over here. Negative 1 3/10. I see negative 1 2500ths. So negative 1 3/10. Remember, if the number is not on the number line, you need to add the number above your point. Negative 1.05, which is really close to negative 1. It's going to be just a smidgen to the left. So that's going to be here. If the number was not already on the number line, you need to add it in. So I'm going to write my negative 1 500ths. And negative 1 is here. 1 is down here. And 0 is in the middle. Now remember, if we're going to order from least to greatest, we're going from left to right. So all you have to do is start with your first point to the far left. That's going to be the first number in your answer. So we're going to say negative 1 5/10 is less than. Now we're going to find the second number, moving from left to right. Negative 1 3/10 is less than. The next number I see is negative 1 500ths. And then negative 1. Keep moving to the right. Is less than 0. Is less than 1. Is less than 1 3/10. So first thing we're going to do here is plot the numbers on the number line. So negative 2.5. I don't see negative 2.5, but could any of these be reduced to negative 2.5? So I'm looking for a fraction that the numerator is half of the denominator. So negative 2 4/8 is equivalent to negative 2.5. So my first point is going to go here. Negative 2 3/4. So again, I'm looking for a number, a fraction that would reduce to 3/4, and I see 6/8 right here. So above that, I'm going to write negative 2 3/4. So my second point is here. Negative 3 is clearly marked right here. Negative 2 is way down to the right. Negative 2 1/8 is just to the left of negative 2. All right, so now if we're going to order from least to greatest, I'm going to find my first number on the number line way down to the left. So my first number going from least to greatest would be negative 3 is less than. Keep moving down the right to the right. Now remember, order the original number given in the problem, so that would be negative 2 3/4. Keep moving from left to right, and that was negative 2.5 is less than, keep moving to the right, negative 2 1/8 is less than negative 2. Last one. All right, so first I see negative 1/10. Now I don't see negative 1/10 on my number line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually skip that one just for a second. So let's look at negative 3/4. So I don't see negative 3/4, but I do see negative 6/8, which is equivalent to negative 3/4. So that point would go here. Then I see 0 way down to the right. I see negative 1. And I see negative 1/8. Now what you could do, since you have denominators, so I'm going to erase. So I'm focusing on my negative 1/8 and my negative 1/10. Negative 1/10 and negative 1/8. I'm going to find a common denominator. Least common denominator would be 40. So if I do 10 times 4 and 1 times 4, that would be negative 4/40. And if I do 8 times 5 and 1 times 5, that would be negative 5/40. Oh, so these numbers are going to be super close together on my number line. Now, if I know that, I'm going to find a different color, if I know that this negative 1/8 is equivalent to negative 5/40, and now I know that negative 1/10 is equivalent to negative 4/40, that would go just to the right of negative 1/8. So I'm going to zoom in here for a second and put another point right here. That would be my negative 1/10. So you can find a common denominator to try to help yourself figure out where your numbers would go. So now all we need to do is put them in order, where I'm going to start way over to the left. So my answer would say negative 1 is less than, moving from left to right, is less than negative 3/4. Keep moving to the right, is less than negative 1/8, is less than negative 1/10, is less than 0. All righty, that's it for today.